I mean, I want it all as a fan, don't you? You want it all, don't you? You want to win the League One championship. You want to be champions. You want to win the Virtue EFL trophy, and you want to win the FA Cup as well. But realistically, we know that that is very, very difficult. But for me, and I'm sure all Blues fans, the priority has to be promotion this season.
So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And on Saturday, Birmingham City host Lincoln City in the FA Cup third round. Now, we're no strangers to Lincoln, being in League One, and we beat them 3-1 at their place earlier this season. But of course, this is a cup game, and it's a little bit harder to predict. Managers tend to sometimes try new systems, rest players, play a few fringe players, and we were fully expecting that from the managers at the weekend. But in this video, we're going to go through what we might expect, how the teams may set up, and what our score predictions are at the end. So, Dad, Birmingham City are hosting Lincoln City in the FA Cup. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's nice to have a home cup game. We haven't had a home cup game for a while, have we? By the way, Birmingham City supporters, don't forget it's 12 o'clock kickoff. I only found out that yesterday. How did I not know that? It's 12 o'clock. Apparently, it's been selected for international broadcasting or something, and the kickoff is 12 o'clock, which 3 o'clock for me on a Saturday and an FA Cup is absolutely perfect. So I was a little bit disappointed when I found out it was 12 o'clock. So if you do go for 3 o'clock kickoff, we'll see you on the way out because we'll be leaving. But yeah, I think when the FA Cup third round draw is one of my favourites. Particularly if you're in the hat as well. If your team is in the hat, you're hoping for either a local derby or a big boy, one of the big Premier League clubs or a good Championship club. And I think, from looking at Lincoln social media, I think they were underwhelmed with the draw as much as we were, because you don't really want to draw a team in the same division.
No.
But we have, and we've drawn Lincoln, and I enjoyed Lincoln when we went to Lincoln away. I enjoyed the whole thing, really, in terms of their ground, the experience. Of course, we won as well. That helped as well. Yeah. And the beer was amazing.
You loved it, didn't you?
So I'm looking forward to this one. I think that, like you said, as we're talking in a minute, I think the managers will look at some form of rotation for both teams. That's not just Blues, that'll be Lincoln, I suspect, as well.
The only other underwhelming draw would have been Shrewsbury, wouldn't it? Because we played them in pre-season friendlies, we've played them in the Cup, and we played them twice in the league. We played them 4 times this season. So Shrewsbury would have been the one which would have been like, oh, again. And maybe Blackpool, because we drew them. Actually, we knocked them out in the previous round, didn't we? So that would have been impossible.
Well, Shrewsbury would have been good. He would have given us a chance for redemption, because losing to them was I suppose the biggest shock of the season for us so far.
I think so.
We got Lincoln. So what's your thoughts on them in their current league form and stuff like that?
Just really quickly, I mean, we talk about the draw, don't we? I know you hold the FA Cup in a very high regard, don't you? Because you grew up in that 70s, and you mentioned about it being a big build-up at the weekend, and it was always special.
It was magical, in the 70s and 80s. It was fantastic, and also sort of people of my age will remember the FA Cup final. You used to start off looking at it, coverage in the morning, watch the players in their hotel, leaving the hotel.
It's the biggie, isn't
it? The journey all the way through. But it has lost its magic in terms of that now, because of obviously the way football's gone, really. But it's still a magical competition, and I'd love us to have a really good cup run.
Well, the FA Cup is seen as the second biggest domestic trophy in England, isn't it? Obviously, the Premier League title is the top, and then the FA Cup is kind of seen second to that, really, isn't it? Of course, you've got the Champions League and European tournaments now, but it's still a biggie, the FA Cup. It's really a prestigious
but I think it's been ruined as well. I mean, another nail in the coffin this year is that they've taken out replays as well, which is crazy. I mean, because some of the teams in the lower in the earlier rounds would have made an awful lot of money, and some of these smaller teams can generate enough money for a year or 2 years if they get a good draw and they get a replay. That's all gone now, and that's because of the greedy Premier League clubs who say we're playing too many games. But what about these little grassroots teams? And this is a different conversation, but it will ruin football, because if you don't put money into the lower leagues and the grassroots, they're never going to get the Premier League players that you're going to get. So it's a bit of another sort of nail in the coffin of the FA Cup, which is a disappointment. But at the end of the day, we have to comply by the rules like everybody else, and it is what it is, unfortunately.
Of course, yeah. And that brings us on nicely to our game against Lincoln City, Dad. And, a team we know. We've obviously done a pre-video to this a couple of months back when we played them in October.
We did one last night, but the recording went...
Yeah, we did. We were here last night, but the SD card and the audio recorder broke, so we are here again. So it's almost like deja vu a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, yeah, we know them well-ish. They've got Michael Scabala, who's in charge, a good manager.
Yeah, I think so.
I respect him.
Yeah.
He's very cool and collected in his interviews, and he's got them playing a bit like Eustace, he's got them playing out of possession, he's got them playing on the back foot a little bit, but it's effective. He's got them playing it effectively. And, they just missed out on the playoffs last season. Recent form isn't too good for Lincoln.
They're mid-table, Matt, aren't they?
Yeah.
And, I know this is an FA Cup game, but we can only look at their league form as a gauge for where they are. Yeah. They've only won 1 in the last 12.
I know. It's really poor form.
It's really, really poor form. And, they made a really good start to the season. In fact, when we played them, we were pretty close in the table, weren't we, when we went to their place? And it was a good win for us. But they've really tailed off, haven't they? Their only win was in them 12 games is on the Boxing Day, which is 2-1, 2-0 win against Reading. Mm-hmm. And they've lost to, likes of Wickham, Wrexham, Rotherham. They've lost to Shrewsbury, which was away, which we did, so we can't really say anything. They've lost to Bolton. And once again, they've lost to Rotherham again, so they played Rotherham twice and lost twice to them. But I'd say that they'd be disappointed with the after their start to the season where they are now. But again, maybe Lincoln fans could tell us this: is this because of injuries? Mm-hmm. Have you got key players injured? My research didn't show too many major injuries, but I may be wrong. Is it just a lack of form or a change of formation? If you're a Lincoln fan, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, absolutely. And their style it reminds me of Wrexham, Northampton, Shrewsbury. As I said a little bit earlier, they play out of possession. They definitely bank on counter-attack. They definitely bank on set pieces, getting balls in the box, that kind of thing. Mm. So, again, something for Blues we have to be wary of, because we have been, if we're going to be purely objective here as Blues fans, we've been a little bit vulnerable, haven't we, to sort of dinks over the top and the long ball. And
I think that's been cut out recently. You are right, Matt. I mean, Blues fans can't deny that, particularly in the early part of the season. But I think since Chris Davis made the changes, bringing Ben Davis in and putting Bielek at right back, I think that we have still been we still give teams space on the wings in every game, don't we?
But even if you look at the first 15 minutes against Wigan, Dad, they were doing little dinks, and it was causing us a few problems. Don't get me wrong, when we scored the goal, we took complete control. But we are going to see that from Lincoln, I think, a wing play in the box, very similar style to those sort of teams. And if you do it effectively, you can be very good at this level. I mean, look at Wrexham as a prime example. They get balls in the box and they just pepper left, right and centre for 90 minutes, and it can be effective. But
I think in this game, though, Matt, I think Lincoln are going to be more defensive, because they're at our place. Well, when you're at home, you're expected to go on the front foot and have a go, and they did really until they scored really early, didn't they?
First minute,
that goal, which was from a throw-in, and it was really badly defended by us. And Bailey Cadamartri, I think his name is Bailey Cadamartri. He's the guy that put it in after a minute.
Yeah,
we didn't even realise the game had started, did we? It was actually in the way end, weren't we? I couldn't believe it, but that was a poor goal for us to concede. And obviously, they might target that type of thing again. Although I would say since then, we've conceded 2 goals in the last 9 league games.
I know,
that's a fantastic defensive record.
But what I would say to counter that, Dad, it's a cup game, so if they don't come out if they don't come out as a little bit, they're going to just go out the cup. What's the point?
Yeah, we see it all the time, don't we, Matt? We see it all the time where teams are expected to beat other teams, and then the teams that are sort of the lower leagues and the teams that are not expected to win up their game. They push everything forward. They just go for it. That could happen in this game.
It's a cliche, but it's called the magic of the FA Cup, isn't it? For that reason, you often see lower league teams beating higher league teams, and anything can happen on the day in the cup, can't it?
It is, and of course they've got a player that I know you really like. You've mentioned him a lot. Is Paddy O'Connor? Is it?
Paddy O'Connor. Yeah. I do really, really like this bloke. I mean, at Lincoln away, I was fuming because he was hitting Keshi Anderson. He was smacking Alfie May. I mean, he really is a nightmare as a centre half. But I like that in a centre half. You should be aggressive. You should be making people's time as difficult as you can on the pitch. And he's actually, when we recorded the first video that a couple of months back, he was the highest rated League One player. He's now slipped down, but he's still second. Yeah. And his average rating is 7.63. So a very good player.
Well, that's really good considering the run they're on.
Exactly.
Because you think that would tail off considerably. So obviously he's still performing in a team that is having a poor run of results at the moment.
Exactly that, yeah. But I like that kind of set. A bit like Clara, just get stuck in.
They're my favourite type of players.
100%.
That's why I like Ben Davis so much as well. He's a no-nonsense. And I think Paddy O'Connor's definitely of that type of ilk, isn't he, as well?
I even saw Ben Davis said it could have been the Wigan game, it could have been the game before. There was no one even around him, but he just blasted it out, and I just thought, I love that. Just get rid of the ball.
I thought you were going to say he had nobody around him, he started beating himself up, wasn't he?
No, just no nonsense. Just gets rid of it every time. Doesn't even dilly-dally on the ball. I mean, he can still play with the ball at his feet and play out from the back, but in the context of when you're under threat, no negotiation, he's getting rid of it, isn't he? Yeah. Coming back to Lincoln, another player I like is called Ethan Erahan.
Yeah,
And again, I
yeah.
know from pronunciation and language, I probably pronunciate that a little bit wrong. But he's their kind of centre mid who gets them ticking, links up defence and attack. And again, in a team that plays out of possession, that's a really key role. So
Yeah.
if he plays, because I'm sure we'll come on to the Blues in a minute, Dad. We could see some changes from Lincoln and Blues. But yeah, a couple of players from there from Lincoln I do like.
Yeah, I've picked out a few as well. So a few to pick out. I mean, their current high scorer is 5 goals. Ben House. He's a centre forward. Then we've got Bailey Cadamartri. He's also got 5 goals. I quite like him. He's quite a nippy little topper player. Then they've got Tendai Darkiwa with 3 goals, who's a right back, and then Paddy O'Connor, centre back. So I think that he's got 2 goals. So I think shows you that they will sort of target set pieces as well. On their assists, Tendai Daraka has 3 assists. He's a right back, and Paddy O'Connor has 3 assists, and they're their 2 highest assists. So their 2 highest assist players are from their back line. So again, actually shows you that they will transition from defence to attack, and clearly Paddy O'Connor is going to be free kicks and corners. We're going to have to watch him on those. So they've got some decent players there. As I say, they are in a bad run of form, so it depends on what their manager David Scabala decides to do in terms of, is he going to rotate, or is he going to think, well, it's an FA Cup game, I'm not going to risk some of these players, because I mean, as bad as their form is, they're still mid-table, believe it or not. And so 1 win in 12 games, they're still mid-table.
They're not a bad team, Lincoln.
They're on 32 points from 25 games, so they are 9 points off the playoffs. Now, don't forget, there's still 23 games to go, so if they can get a good run going, there's still a possibility they could make the playoffs as well. So I think this is a dilemma, not just for David Scabala, but also for Chris Davies, because they've got one eye on this game and thinking, well, actually, the league is the priority.
Yeah. I think Blues will admit that as well, Dad. Our priority is the league. And
has to be.
And we've discussed this before, we want a good cup run, we want to win the virtue and all these different things. But if it comes at the cost of injuries and unnecessary suspensions or whatever it might be, the league's the priority at the end of the day. We need to get back into the championship.
I would love to see us have a really, really good cup run. I'd love that. I'd love us to see us go on. But I don't want to do that at the expense of getting players injured and promotion. But I would love. I mean, I want it all as a fan, don't you? You want it all, don't you? You want to win the League One championship. You want to be champions. You want to win the Virtue EFL trophy, and you want to win the FA Cup as well. But realistically, we know that is very, very difficult. But for me, and I'm sure all Blues fans, the priority has to be promotion this season. And if it means that we have to rotate players and we do get knocked out the FA Cup, I think most Blues fans will say, well, fair enough, the priority is the league. But nevertheless, we still like to go on a cup run.
Definitely. And no, completely agree with that, Dad. And my final point on Lincoln before we get into the Blues team is I like the way they press from the front. Very high energy. They tend to press in triangles in different areas, and they can be very effective. But we're just as effective pressing, aren't we? We've seen us suffocate teams. We've seen those force teams into errors. So I have no doubt that's going to be quite an intense battle. If it becomes a game of pressing, we know Lincoln can do that quite well. But let's go on to the Blues team, Dad, and let's discuss what we think the lineup is going to be.
Now this is interesting because, we know there has to be rotation. We know that Chris Davies has his favoured starting 11, and we've got a game against Exeter. Actually, we've got this game, then we've got a EFL Trophy game on Tuesday at Swindon, which we've got tickets for, haven't we, as well? We're going to Swindon. And then we've got the big game against Exeter, which is league game. So it'll be interesting to see what Chris Davies does here. But so should we do what we usually do? Go through the back to front and
so do you want to do the keeper and defence? Then I'll do my midfield and attack, and we'll go from there. And I think this is quite interesting, Dad, because this is quite hard to predict for me because Chris Davies could change formation. We saw against Blackpool he went 4-4-2. Because he played Yuki and Dykes up front, which was quite effective. They both scored 2 set pieces, was great to see. But I think we'll talk today about the options we have in each position and who we might choose. But of course, we'll talk about our preferred choices and what we think as well. So
So for the next 2 games, including the EFL Trophy, I think we'll see Bailey Peacock-Farrell in goal. That seems to be what he's been doing. There's no point. I mean, Allsop is a fantastic goalkeeper. He's done very well for us, and we don't want to risk him getting injured for the league. So I think it will be Bailey Peacock-Farrell. I also think we need another goalkeeper, but that's another conversation we'll have for another day. On the back line, which again, we got options here, but also we've got clearly Lee Buchanan's injured now for the rest of the season. So at left back, what do you do?
So we've got Cochrane. Taylor, Gardner-Hickman or Laird. They're the three who can fit into that position.
We could have had also potentially Brandon Keeler's played there before, but he's now out on loan at Bradford City. So I'm thinking that he's probably going to keep Cochrane in there. And the reason for that is that Cochrane is going to be reasonably fresh because he's only been back a couple of games after an injury and he's looked pretty good in those 2 games as well. So he's not played all those length of games. But the risk is if he gets injured as well, isn't it? But I'm going to plump for Cochrane. I do agree. He could switch Laird over there. Definitely. And Taylor Gardner-Hickman, you're going to see, is in my midfield.
Yeah, same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm plumping for Cochrane at left back. Now, in centre halves, I've gone for Bielek at centre half with, and this is going to be controversial because he might be going Dion Sanderson.
Interesting.
I know that there's lots of speculation at the moment about Dion Sanderson being sold or put out on loan, but I think that we need to give Clara and Ben Davies a rest. And I think that for my centre-half pairing will be Bielek and Sanderson. And then, just to finish off the back line, right back, I've once again gone for Laird.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I've got one change. That again, for me, left back was between Cochrane, Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Laird. I've gone for Cochrane as well.
Yeah.
I think he gives us more stability. He seems to be back now firing. Davies might be worried about injury, so he might flip Laird over to there, maybe like second half.
Yeah, but Laird
or a
could
little
get
bit
injured
later.
as well.
Yeah, true. But I think we have a little bit better cover on the right than we do on the left.
Yeah.
I think the left needs protecting a little bit more, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then I've gone for Ben Davies on the left side of centre back and Bielek on the right side of centre back. I think Clara might not even get announced in the squad. I think he might give him a complete full rest like he did at Blackpool. And I think Sanderson might be on the bench there. Because again, don't get me wrong, Sanderson's a Blues player. He's contracted to Blues, so we have every right to play him. But I just got a feeling with the rumours circulating, he might decide to keep him on the bench. And I've gone for Ben Davies and Bielek.
Yeah, and so who's your right back then?
Right back. Again, options, I've gone Laird, Taylor Gardner-Hickman or Bielek, but I'm plumping for Laird.
Yeah, that's what I've done as well. I think that Sanderson's the interesting one there because Blues, if they know that they've got real strong interest and they're sort of agreeing a fee with another club, they ain't going to want to get him injured. Mm-hmm. So it is a bit of a conundrum, but I would play him. At the end of the day, he's contracted to Birmingham City.
Of course.
And he's, I think we should play him because I think Ben Davies. We don't want to risk injuries to Ben Davies or to Clara in an FA Cup game. Mm-hmm. So that's what we think about the back line.
And I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't be bothered if Sanderson was in the starting lineup. It's one of those things. It's hard to predict, isn't it, with the cup game? But completely appreciate.
Okay, so do you want to talk about do centre mid first before we go on to the? I know you want to do the whole thing, but just talk about your 2 central midfielders and then talk about the rest of your.
Okay, so I've gone for straight off the bat. I think Paik and Awata need a break.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see them on the bench, if not one of them completely out of the squad again, just to give them that full reset. So I've gone for Taylor Gardner-Hickman because I think his most impressive position is either right back or centre mid. I like him in the centre mid because he's got that bite, and I think it's time to give Leonard a run out as well.
I've got those 2 exactly. I think Leonard is a banker to start this game.
He has to be.
Yeah. Yeah,
if he doesn't start this game, he'll be scratching his head, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I've gone for Taylor Gardner. I like Taylor Gardner. Him and he's a versatile player. He's got that attitude about him. I really like as well. And I hope we sign him permanently, by the way. But I think I like him in central midfield. Agreed. And so I've gone with him and Leonard. I think that's a really good pairing in central midfield as well.
And Leonard kind of gives you the Paik element to the role, quite a playmaker, gets you on the front foot. And Taylor Gardner-Hickman gives you the Awata grit and.
Yeah, that's a fantastic. I mean, that is actually a starting centre midfield, isn't it? As well. Okay, so do you want to talk about your start at the left and then right, and then talk about your 10 and 9?
Yeah, so I've gone for Yokoyama on the left.
Yeah, so have I.
I've gone for Luke Harris in the 10 because Chris Davies seems to have this real loyalty to Luke Harris, and I've gone for Scott Wright on the right.
And who's your number 9?
So either Dykes or Yuki, and I can't decide between the two. He might decide to give Yuki a run in the cup. Odds are probably Dykes.
Okay. Well, just so that you know, we don't discuss these podcasts. We purposely don't discuss them before we record them because we want the conversation to be as organic and natural as possible. And interestingly, I've picked exactly the same starting lineup as you. I've gone for Yokoyama on the left. Obviously, we both agreed that Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Mark Leonard in the middle. I've gone for Scott Wright. I think it's good for him. This is a great game for him. This is FA Cup. Get his fitness back. He looked electric in that little cameo appearance against Wigan. Absolutely love him. I think he's going to be fantastic for us. I've also gone for Harrison, number 10, because Chris Davis favours him. But I've actually gone for Dykes to start. I think Yuki will be on the bench.
Okay, well, in the interest of a bit more of excitement, I'll go Yuki to start. Then, in the interest of having a bit of a difference, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Dykes. But yeah, go on then. I'll stick my neck on the line. I'll go for Yuki up front then. And you know what? I'd like to see Yuki. We saw him at Barnsley away. Had a really good second half. So why not? I mean, Dykes and Yuki are similar players.
I think what'll happen is that this will be a similar team also for the Swindon game. But I think that either Dykes or Yuki will start that. So one will start this game and one will start the other, in my opinion. So if Dykes starts against Lincoln, I think Yuki will start against Swindon.
Yeah.
That's in my opinion, but we'll come on to that when we get to that video. But interestingly, we're going to have a strong bench because I've gone for Allsop, Chris Davies. Well, he will be on the bench, but he just can't go because he's actually on the bench, isn't he? But Ben Davies, sorry. Christian Clara, Awata, Paik, Alfie May will be on there as well. And of course, Williamson probably I don't think will be even in the squad. I think he'll be rested completely.
I think Clara might as well. But
possibly, but he might bring in one or two of the younger lads like he did against Blackpool. I think there was a couple of the 18-year-olds sat on the bench because in the FA Cup you can have 9 subs,
exactly.
Whereas in league you can only have 7. So I think we'll see a couple of young lads on there just to give them a bit of first team experience.
Still can't get my head around the subs, but that's a conversation for another day. The 7, the 9.
Oh no, it's crazy. You can have 9 subs in the Premier League and in Championship, but only 7 in League One, League 2. It is ridiculous.
It has a whole new podcast and rant for another day. That I think.
Yeah. But let's go to obviously we've talked about the team now. What about a score prediction?
So I was going back and forth between 2-1 Blues and 2-0 Blues, and if I'm going to use the logic here and the stats and the data around our clean sheets, I know the defence might be a bit different, which might make us a little bit more vulnerable, but I'm still going to back us to get a clean sheet, and I'm going to go Birmingham City 2, Lincoln City 0.
Okay, I've gone 3-1. I think that we have got a fantastic defensive record, but as you say, the back line are going to be different, obviously the goalkeeper is going to be different, and I think that it's quite positive. FA Cup, they might decide to throw the kitchen sink at us and really have a go. So I think we are going to be under attack for parts of this game, but I've gone 3-1.
Okay.
Birmingham City 3, Lincoln City 1.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, anything final thoughts, Dad, or happy to close the podcast?
Just looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. FA Cup. It's nice, isn't it, Blues fans too? I always feel the league games. There's more pressure on the league games because you have to get the points. But the FA Cup and the EFL Trophy are nice little distractions. Nice to go as far as we can. But if we did get beaten in any of these games now or in future rounds, I think Blues fans would take that for promotion.
Yes.
But I'm really looking for it. Don't forget, Blues fans, for my last comment, 12 o'clock kickoff, okay? It nearly caught me out. Don't let it catch you out. 12 o'clock.
Absolutely. But as always, Birmingham City supporters, we'd love to hear from you. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Maybe you're a Lincoln supporter. Maybe you've subscribed from the previous video we did a few months back, or maybe you've stumbled across this channel for the first time. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section as well. And if you like this video specifically, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And check us out on our social media channels. We have an X page, we have an Instagram page, and we're also over on Spotify now if you want to check us out over there. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to press that big red subscribe button and hit that bell notification as well so you get notified every time we post a video. And myself and Dad will see you on the next video all about Birmingham City.